Welcome to another episode of Out Loud
and Laughing.
Get ready.
I'm Bryan.
And Jon, two gay cousins having big talks and even bigger laughs. Join us. Let's see what they're up to. It's Out Loud and Laughing.
Welcome back to another episode of ol&l. That's Out Loud and Laughing for anyone listening.
Oh my gosh.
I'm Bryan.
And I'm Jon, and you are obviously so cool turning our podcast into an acronym this morning. Look at you go.
I am trying to make ol&l happen, Jon.
You are making it happen right here, right now. And
Right
all
here,
of
right
our
now.
listeners are going to be like, hey, do you guys listen to ol&l? LOL.
How are you, Jon?
In my own world, and by that I mean like just me, my brain, and my house, we're great. You open that door and it's not so great. How are you doing with all the state of affairs in the world right now?
You mean all the shit that's happening in this world? I am doing, we're okay. You know?
We're gonna be okay. I have
I
faith.
hope.
I have faith in humanity. I will say this before we get into the granularity of all this and sort of the grittiness of all this, that one thing that I've learned or that I've sort of picked up on from patterns of history is the resiliency of humanity. And even in the darkest times, world wars and awful events such as like the Holocaust and other genocides that have happened in the world, Syria, Rwanda, these places have turned really dark days into opportunity. And I think that that's where we're at right now. We have been met with a really undeniable force right now. I think that the administration that's sitting right now in the United States of America is one that is ruthless, is one that doesn't exhibit, one that doesn't make us feel very good. And I think that that is sort of what we want to focus on today here is what's going on, how it impacts us directly on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure you, Bryan, and then also our listeners are also, feeling their feelings, regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on. You're either repulsed by what you voted for, which is what I hope is how you feel, because it's how the rest of us feel based off of what's happening. I feel like I've been talking for a minute straight. I'm going to pass it back over to you, Bryan, and hear what you have to say about it all.
No, I think you're completely spot on. I think anyone that didn't vote for this man is almost of the camp of I told you so, but feeling that pain. And then anyone that did vote for him, I truly do hope that there's some regret there. And if there isn't, there's such a lack of education and such brainwashing at this point, because there is no one that hasn't been affected by this and will not be affected by this. And what do I mean by that? So I guess I'll let my guard down completely and talk about everything that's happening in my household. It's like, come January, our household has been rocked to the core, right? So as many of you guys know, Adam and I went through our surrogacy journey for both our kids. And so one child is DNA Adam, one child is DNA Kenzie. And so now we need to go through the legal system to make sure that I can be a legal adopted parent of the child that isn't DNA mine. And Adam needs to do the same. And so we're just safeguarding our family to make sure that we are a unit of 4 and that we have all the legal paperwork there. That's scary, right? And that's something that like we would not have had to have done with a different administration, because this administration has, and all the proof is there. So anyone can shake their heads, and people who are close to us, Jon, say, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. You look at all the anti-LGBTQ, and I say T very positively and very proudly because they dropped that from the website in the government. They're dropping our trans community, which is very near and dear to you and me because they are family to us. And so it's happening, right? States are now literally putting out stuff to get rid of gay marriage. And so we're doing that. We're safeguarding our family. We are also right now, we were going to go through a renovation on our house, and now we can't, because we don't know how our financials look. I haven't even checked my 401k.
Well,
Tariffs are coming in and are going to affect supply, but our architect and contractor have no idea how it's going to affect supply. So there's no way we can move forward with a project on our house because we just don't know how much it's inevitably going to cost us. So now our house that we wanted to stay in and grow our family in now is a big question mark,
you
right?
know, that piece particularly, I think, broadly expands to
To
many things,
everyone,
to everyone. Exactly.
financial,
I
right?
want to jump back to what you opened with about the direct hits on your family.
Yeah.
Um, and something that you said, which was, some of the supporters of this administration who say things to us like that'll never happen is such a cop out. And you also mentioned something about being uneducated. This administration partnered with the Heritage Foundation, who has been an advocate for changing families in this country or keeping traditional families in this country safeguarded. And I say safeguarded, and that's actually a stupid word. Um, uh, keep the patriarchy alive. We'll put it that way.
Hmm.
They outlined in 2025 the goals for this administration in a document that was available for everybody to read, 900 pages, which basically outlined their goals, right, for the restoring traditional family structures and basically dismantling federal support across the entire LGBTQIA, you know, um, uh, community.
Well,
And
and that when I was talking to people before this vote even happened, people were saying, that's all fake news. He is not associated with that. He is not associated with Project 2025. And all of us were raising the alarm saying, he is. You guys are being duped. And
yep,
they still are being duped because, yeah, sorry to cut you off, but that just, boils
you're
my
not
blood.
you're not cutting me off. You're adding significantly to the conversation. We have to be mindful that people who are telling us that this won't happen. Let me tell you right now, as of April in 2025, there have been numerous states who have passed and are still considering passing bills restricting transgender rights, LGBTQIA rights, healthcare access. We're talking about participation in community activities and the use of public facilities. These are the conversations that are being had right now. And for somebody to say, this won't happen, you have no reason to worry. These are the reasons why we have made such strong stances around people in our life. Because it just sounds so tone deaf.
It
Uh,
is.
just as of March 28th, Utah being the last state that is sort of like in the headlines as we record this in this point in time, where now they're discussing removing pride flags in government buildings. Well, let me tell you
It
what.
passed. I believe it
They,
passed.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and any dismantling of diversity and equity and inclusion, which has also become a big buzz term, DEI. Well, let me tell you, while it's become just a buzz term for you and a buzz term through your administration, I have seen the power of it work inside of corporations, inside of communities. And if you think DEI just stands for gay people or black people or transgender people, let me get it corrected for you. It also means women. So if you voted for this administration, you voted against yourself. It also means people with disabilities, be them physical, be them mental, ADHD, and all the other sort of mental abilities that we're talking about. DEI programs are to include everyone from neurotypical to neurodivergent to all the communities that have basically been underrepresented from the African American community. The
Yeah,
reason
but
these programs exist in the first place is because the equality is not there.
so DEI is definitely a topic that's near and dear to me because everyone is getting it wrong, right? Everyone's getting it wrong. DEI is not about putting someone who is unqualified in a position just because of their skin color or sexual orientation.
Yep.
DEI was initially brought in to ensure that everyone got a fair chance at an opportunity, right? So, for example, historically, you would pick 10 resumes for a role, and you would typically get 10 white people to interview for that role. DEI was saying, let's bring more people in to interview for that role. They still needed to earn that role. They still needed to interview. They still needed to have the qualifications. But what we were saying is everyone has a different road to get to those qualifications. Let's just give them a fair seat at the table to try and get those jobs. Now, with that said, what happens now, and people closest to us, which we're not going to name names, will say, oh, well, that Black person just had that job because they had DEI. When you look at the qualifications of that person was qualified, they fought hard, and they got their seat and they earned. Now, if you talk about DEI giving people jobs that they don't deserve, you can absolutely point that to all the white people in the administration today. None of them have a resume. None of them are qualified. So if you want to talk about DEI being unfair, that is exactly what's happening. Is now what we're saying is we are scared of Black people, of gay people, of women coming into power. So now what we're doing is we're just going to continue to give white people who are unqualified very senior roles, not because of DEI, because we are scared of these communities, quote unquote, taking over. And
what's
so
so ironic to
DEI,
me,
go ahead.
what's so ironic to me also is how, with this idea of white people, I'm going to put it out there, white people protecting sort of where they are today and where they stand today from sort of a class geodemographic lens. The amount of empathy that has sort of gone into that that protecting of whatever that pillar of ego or just identity is so ironic to me, because that's all we're asking you to do for everybody else,
Yeah.
right? All we're asking you to do for everybody else is to be so compassionate about our experience. And now all anybody can do is think about the experience that's being taken away from people instead of focusing on how we can be giving those opportunities to everyone. And to me, that should sit at the cornerstone of somebody's character, that they are unable to recognize that they have been alive for however many years they've been on this earth and have been completely unaffected by the things that they're trying to take away from people.
They
As a
have
matter
not
of
done
fact,
any of it.
adversely, they've not only been unaffected, they've benefited. They have absolutely benefited from these communities. Any of you listening right now, especially those who are in support of all this, if you've ever gone to Disney World, a Broadway show, if you've ever worked with a gay wedding planner or whatever, the level of creativity, the level of, we add color to the world. And I'm not even just saying gay people, I'm saying everybody, because but in the communities that involve everybody, I think the most beautiful things come out. Please tell me right now what's coming beautiful out of this administration. They are brainwashing, they are cooing, they are stealing right under our noses. And everybody is just like, yeah, but we don't want a transgender girl playing sports.
It's a little bit numbing. I think especially because you and I have people who are very, very close to us who have made that decision and to vote for this person. And I think you brought up all the right points. I think what's interesting is that there's now proof in what's been happening. There is now proof that everything that was said was a lie. Everything was extreme beyond what was promised. People were voting to bring down egg prices. They're literally being tripled. People voted because they wanted to get rid of all illegal criminals. There was now a story that came out that a Cuban person living in Louisiana for over 40 years just got deported. So make that make sense. So what's happening is it's going completely extreme and everyone's been duped and lied to. And I guess my biggest question, Jon, that I would love to really dive into, because you and I can bitch for hours about this because we are hurt in so many different levels, is where do we go from here? Because you and I have a lot of people who are closest to us who made this decision. And I've been thinking about it a lot. And obviously it has created some space between us in those relationships, whether they recognize it or not. You and I question, can I talk about this? Or should I make the call today? Because I don't really know if I want to talk to this person about how they made me, how their one vote, even though they think it's just one vote, how it's affected my life. And I've given so much thought to it. And I just want some of these people to call me and say, I made a mistake. And I don't see any of that empathy coming our way to be like, now that we see this and how much it's affected you, and you mean so much to me, I made a mistake. Because I don't know if they think that, but I want some of the people who are closest to me just to recognize like, fuck, this is hurting you. And I don't care about anything else. If this is hurting you, then this is not okay. And you and I aren't getting that. And that's what I think is hurting me to my core at this point, is no one's given me that recognition of like, outside of everything that we voted for, we didn't realize that you would be collateral damage. And that is not okay. And for that, we regret it and we're going to try and fix it. But we're not getting that. And that hurts.
It hurts, you know, and I was in a conversation. Thank you for all of that. And it tracks completely with how I'm feeling, especially, not especially. It's interesting that I feel similarly to you because our lives are so different, but because we identify as the same thing, it affects us, right? We talk
100%.
about, we talk about on this pod about your experience being a father, and we opened up with that today about how that's affected you directly. For me, you know, one of the things I spoke with, you know, especially with people who are incredibly close to me, was how now I feel as if I need to put my life on hold for the next 4 years, dating, looking for somebody. I'm 40 years old. I don't want to put my life on hold for four more years. This one really, really hurt. And so I was in conversation with, you know, my crew, and we were, you know, they're all liberal, and they're liberal, they're educated. One's a college professor. One of them works in our community with a PhD, trying to work with, you know, integrating disparate communities, and trying to figure out ways that we can do that. Like, I'm actually worried for her role. But anyhow, to get to the meat of what it is that I'm trying to say, is the sentence that came out of my mouth was, people often say, "Oh, I don't care that you're gay." And I really think we should be changing that. I want you to care that I'm gay.
Yeah.
I want you to care about all of the things that my life has been relatively unaffected negatively, outside of just sort of the fear and the emotional. I'm talking about, I've never been assaulted. I've never been, you know, verbally assaulted. Actually, I have, but I won't go through that story
Yep.
right now because it was
Same.
very, very close to me. And the trauma I'm still working on in therapy. But you know, it affects us similarly, regardless of how different our lives are. And the fact that people can say, "Well, I don't care that you're gay," like as if that's a compliment. It's
Right.
actually like, "Well, then I don't care that you have children, or I don't care about your husband, or I don't care about your life." Like, that's what you say. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then we're supposed to sit there and take it. And I feel like this attitude of, of being complicit has now allowed people like who we have in our administration, which ironically, Elon Musk's transgender daughter,
Yep.
like, who he advocated for so strongly at the onset. You can literally see that this man is vying for the most, you know, whatever it is he's vying for now, because he's even sold out his own flesh and blood. You know,
Well, I mean, yeah, if you look at it even more of a macro level, like it's not even like, yes, I think Elon, that's a whole different topic. He has been disgusting. He has ruined our country, him coupled with Trump. I hear you on all that. But what a lot of this boils down to is a lot of the religious people have been swayed wrong their entire lives. We know so many people close to us who double down on being religious, and that's why we have to vote Republican because we are pro-life, blah, blah, blah. Let's be clear. If Jesus tried to get into this country today, you would turn him away as a Christian.
oh yeah,
You have literally taken what was supposed to be a compassionate platform that was all about serving the poor, helping the immigrant, opening your door to your neighbor, loving one another, making sure everyone was equal, and letting God do all of the like judgment. Everyone in the Republican Party is trying to play God. They're like, we don't want these people in our country. We don't want these people to have rights. We want to be left alone. We want to have our rights, but we don't want this group of people to be allowed. And so this is not anymore a religion based on compassion. It's a religion based on power and control. And it is exactly what we were not taught, Jon. And this is probably why you and I both stepped away from the quote unquote church as it is today, because I can't sit there and try and pay my way into a heaven, which we could argue exists or not, to, to fuel hate. And let's be clear, we're not even allowed in the church. I had to, I baptized my kids, but no church on the Roman Catholic side would do it because they
The
had
saddest
two
thing,
gay parents.
and the saddest, this, I'm sorry, what was the last thing you said?
No, they would not baptize my kids who have no sexual orientation right now. They're babies, but because they had two gay parents, the church would not baptize those kids. Make that make sense.
And, I think, expanding and making this point a little bit bigger, where any faith-based organization, that, that keeps a certain person out, it's straight hypocrisy.
It's
It's
literally
straight
the definition.
in
Mhm.
every faith, from Judaism to Christianity to Muslim, from the Quran to the Torah to the Bible, it all talks about how we should be treating each other. And anybody who can say, I will treat everybody that I accept that way, except for others, you've missed the point completely. Go do more work on yourself. There are other, what's really exciting, and this is an interesting point because I just was served an ad on Facebook and I'm actually considering going. There are interfaith organizations right now, the Q Christian Fellowship, Muslim for Progressive Values, the Kashet, which is an LGBTQ view for people who practice Judaism. They're building inclusive and religious spaces where people can spiritually connect again back with greater things that they believe that are greater than themselves as a human, in a safe space that they can now honor themselves who they are as a human. We've not only been kept from, rights and all of the light, but like from a spiritual standpoint, we've been kept from the very thing that people use to guide them in their life. Like, are you kidding me? You're
Well,
taking that away from people?
you said it point blank. The church and any sort of religious institution used to be a safe space. Everyone welcome. This is a safe space. It is no longer that. It is not a safe space. It is a group of people who have been brainwashed to believe that they are right and no one else is. And it's hard to grapple with that because what it's done is it's turned into political. And now it's created a voting group that will not change their mind. So many people say, well, I am pro-life, so I have to vote Republican. You could be pro-life. I'm pro-life.
I am
But that doesn't
pro-life.
mean- But that doesn't mean that I need to control the woman outside who isn't pro-life. Why is it my job to control what she does with her body when that's God's job? If you want to say that God's going to judge her, then let God judge her. We should not be telling anyone what to do with their lives and how to live it. This United States was built on freedom for everyone. But what's happening is this party keeps voting for freedom for them. They didn't want to wear a mask. They didn't want vaccine shots. They wanted to be that group that was not told what to do. And they were all about, this country is all about freedom. Don't tell me what to do.
And what people don't
Except
realize,
I'm okay. Let me finish my point really quick. Sorry. Is I am okay with this group not being able to get married, with this group to not be able to control their own body, with this group to not get a job because quote unquote DEI is giving it to them. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you're helping this country. You're helping you in this country. You're not helping this country. You're making this country a place where a big majority of people now feel isolated, marginalized, and not in a place where they can feel safe. And so going back to my original point, when are some people closest to us going to make us feel safe again?
and that's what's happening now. We're not even talking about what could possibly happen. We've seen
It's
this happening
literally 3 months in.
before.
Yes.
In
Yes.
countries and in states where religious and religion has strong contingencies. Okay. And when I mean, when I'm saying religion, I'm using the hypocritical form of it because in my opinion, a lot of this is all hypocrisy. But in countries and states where we have strong religious contingencies, what I'm afraid is going to happen and what I hear in the rhetoric, this isn't even like this isn't even like a fear of mine based off of like just my own thinking. This is real fear that religion now could be cited to justify criminalization, and it could be
Mhm.
used for persecution and prosecution. Like, this isn't even just happening in our country. We talked about it at the early onset, Uganda, Russia, parts of the Middle East, where you can literally be killed if you're caught talking or interacting with the same sex in a certain way, for example. Unlike other progressive countries, and these are the countries now that we're like saying that we our adversaries who we say we don't want to work with, places like Canada, I think it's happening in Scandinavia and places like New Zealand where they're actually doing quite the opposite. They're expanding protection.
Yep.
And they're doing it, ironically, often with support from religious leaders. So, you made me, and this is something else that I wanted to say I'm sorry for almost interrupting you earlier.
You're
And
fine.
it's a joke now, but it wasn't a joke. Well, it was a joke then. And to be honest, I don't think it's a joke now, but when you and I were teenagers and we were sort of like still in the closet to certain people in our family, and we were actually very active in our church. Our families
Sure.
were very active in the church, and we would joke that the walls were going to hiss and burn down because for our entire lives, we were taught that this was wrong and that we would be going to hell. Imagine telling a child that they are going to hell.
I know.
And that's what
I
we're
know.
raised with. And we're supposed to show up and be and accept this story that you're
And
telling
let's
me
be
now. So now I'm
it,
supposed to go to hell and now I don't matter. Thanks. You're my
yeah.
friend. Appreciate you.
Who
Now,
wants to respect a religion that's telling a child they're going to hell because of who they love? Like it literally does not make sense.
what does that
Who
make you
wants
think? What does that make them? What do you think that makes them think about themselves? I always think about that, right?
it makes them feel better. It makes them feel taller. It
And
makes
this
them
is
feel
how it works,
mightier.
folks. This is how it works, folks. We, as a human, I'm gonna get real deep for a second here, Brian, if I may.
Let
The human brain, its pure function is to keep us safe. Okay. Because we've like had technological advances, we've been able now to sort of subsidize safety for creativity and advancements in technology, right? We no longer had to worry about being eaten alive by a saber-toothed tiger because we made fire, on and on and on and on. Fast forward to 2025, right? Um, in doing so, when we are isolated or when we
Mhm.
feel alone, that incites fear. That just brings up fear in the body. The same
Yeah.
fear that you would feel if you were about to get, again, attacked or eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Think about that. Put yourself in those moccasins. I don't know what type of shoes cavemen wore or if
They
any at
felt
all.
like they had shoes.
Like, those are very nice shoes. Uh, put yourself in that position and imagine what it would be like when that would just be very, very fearful, right? And so
Yep.
you take that same feeling, you put it in 2025 when you say a transgender boy who identifies, who a cisgender boy, excuse me, a cisgender boy, transgender female identifies as a female and wants to play on a girls' sports team, which is less than 1%. Okay. So we're talking
It's less than 10 people.
it's less than 10 people, let's say that. So that's like 0.0001%, if anything at all, if it even registers on the Richter on the population census. But um, you know, there are ways to have these discussions that I feel aren't so isolating. And if it is fear that people feel, which is what I think is what drives a lot of this, because again, people who don't who people with low self-esteem who are unable to identify with the broader community and they sort of just jump on the bandwagon, that is weakness. That is
Yeah.
a pure sign of weakness. And as a country that leads in so many ways, it is so interesting to me that there are, I think Americans generally, and I'm going to put it out there,
Yeah.
Americans are opportunists, and we're sort of like lazy in the sense that we don't want to think. We want the world to be easy to us. Cut the taxes, cut this, cut that. It's like we should be a country. Whatever happened to the conversations that we had from some of our great presidents about how to not what you do for your, you know, everything. Brian, what's the saying? What did JFK say?
Ask
Ask
not
not
what you
what
do for your country, but what your country does for you or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
And for some people who are indirectly in our family, the things that this country has done for them, elevating them out of immigration, allowing them the opportunity with education to raise us with with privilege and with access, they forget the amount of work that it took for them to get there. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
everybody was trying to keep them down as well. And now somebody who's been in Louisiana who shares the same Cuban and cultural affiliation has now been kicked out of this country for what?
Yeah. I think, and I know we could talk about this for hours, but I think for anyone listening who is angry, good, be angry. I think if you have people closest to you who voted for the other side and you feel angry about that, good, feel angry. And you also are welcomed a conversation. And I think at some point, Jon and I are as well. And I think if someone is okay with us being collateral damage to their decision, then tell us that. Man up and tell us, no, we actually are happy with what's happening. Say that. And if you're not happy with what's happening because of us being collateral damage, then also tell us that. Because what we are sitting here doing is wondering. And I'd rather know where we stand on your relationship journey. Are we important enough for you to actually be upset that you made this decision? Or are you happy with it? I think we deserve the answer either way. And I think anyone listening that also wants that also deserves that. And I'm just going to leave it right there for me.
And may I wrap it up on somewhat of a more
Please.
positive note? You asked me early on, what can we do? Um,
Hmm.
we can have hard and honest conversations with those who we love the most. And what I ask is, when we do have these conversations is together, we listen and we don't wait for our turn to talk. We listen. We don't we don't offer false solutions in the face of a very scary administration. We listen. In terms of what we can do, what I can do, and what I am actually doing is I've gotten back out into my community. I
Hmm.
am not a politician, but I am somebody who cares a lot about people. And I think that that's at the heart of politics. The Latin root itself is of people and a body of people. So I am out in my community and I'm starting to meet people that I know that I could partner with and maybe add some of my own talents and which, to the mix because it's
Yeah.
all getting the voice out. And lastly, and lastly, if anybody who's listening and is alone, go out and find community or reach out to us. This is not very easy. Bryan and I are very fortunate. We have one another. There are not a lot of people who have the relationship that Bryan and I have who have been able
Yep.
to work through this together. We're here for you. Drop comments, join us, come talk to us about these issues. This is what this pod is about. Yes, we like to have fun and yes, we like to laugh, but there are some serious things that we have to keep our speech, to keep our freedoms, to keep our identities. And I won't, and I know that we can do it together. So how can we do it? We do it together.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. We'll continue to talk about this. As you can see, guys, we're not shy about our feelings on this.
Absolutely not.
And we'll continue to do that. And so thank you for listening. And we are here for you. And we will all, fingers crossed, get through this together.
I love you, Bryan.
Love you too.
Bye.